Good morning, 303. So if you're watching this video, you just watched my video reading chapter 23 called The Festival. We learned so much in that chapter. We left off at the end. Caroline walked back into the classroom. I couldn't believe it. I don't know if you were as shocked as I was, but she walked in out of nowhere and said, "Here I am." We thought she had left. So before we read the next chapter, make sure you're all caught up with chapter 23. This chapter is called 24. It is the last chapter. Can you believe it? So in this chapter, you're going to hear the word zigzagged. Can you say zigzag? To zigzag is to move sharp turns back and forth like this, to zigzag around. So you're going to hear that word in this chapter. This chapter, number 24, is called Miss Waring, which if you don't remember who that was that teacher in the resource room that Sam has to go to. All right, listen up. We made it to our last chapter. Chapter 24, Miss Waring. The dismissal bell rang. Sam zigzags down the hall, carrying one end of the castle. Those trenchers, ugh. Caroline zigzagged behind him with the other. I'll tell Mom, it was worth that 2-hour drive this morning just to taste those peas. Yum. They laughed. Sam backed down the 3 outside steps, trying to hold the castle level. Easy, Caroline said. And then, so, what about Sam Bell? It was my parents' name. He bent to pick up a knight that had slid off the edge of the castle, but Mac thought it would be easier for me to have his. I'm going to pause there because a lot of our mystery was just solved in those 2 sentences. So the newspaper clipping that said missing Sam Bell, we were so confused because his name is Sam Mackenzie. So we're figuring out, Mac had changed his name to be Sam Mackenzie so that they had the same name. That's the reason why. His name used to be Sam Bell, so it makes sense that the missing said Sam Bell. I'm going to reread that. So, what about Sam Bell? It was my parents' name. He bent to pick up a knight that had slid off the edge of the castle, but Mac thought it would be easier for me to have his. They reached the van, and Caroline's mother popped the rear door from the driver's seat. You're sure it's all right? Caroline asked. Sam grinned at her. About my name? About the castle? Sure. One thing. I know why you put the window in my room in the castle. He waited. You want me to look for friends, don't you? Just go to the classroom door. Just pick out a kid and smile. You have a great smile. You'll see. He slid the castle into the rear of the van. Oh, Sam, she said. I will never forget. She did smile then. Thanks. But one more thing. How can we stay friends if you don't email? If you don't write? She put a crumpled up piece of paper in her hand. My email address. She leaned forward, purple hat, a dozen bracelets, a constellation of freckles, and kissed his cheek before she went around to the front of the van. Think about it. Write to me. I'll figure it out. Say yes. He stepped back to stand on the curb, his hand raised to his face, watching until they pulled away and turned the corner. He went back into school and down the stairs to the resource room. Miss Waring was at the window, watering her plants. I have to read, he said. Sam? She brushed a drop of water off a leaf. I saw your castle at lunchtime. Everyone's talking about it, and no wonder. It's amazing. Thanks, but listen. I don't have to be a great reader, but I have to get by. So I'm going to pause. Why do you think he's saying suddenly he has to be a good reader? I'm thinking it must be because he actually really cares about Caroline. He wants to be able to write to her. Her head was tilted, the watering can dripping. How could he tell her the whole story? The papers in the attic, the computer, Caroline, all of it? What a difference it would have made if he could have read. He settled for telling her just about the boat. My grandfather and I are going to build a sailboat. I want to write it down, what we do, how we build it. How much time did you spend thinking about that castle? How much time working on it? He knew what she was thinking. Every minute I had. That's what it takes sometimes. She put the watering can down and wiped her fingers on her jeans, then lifted the pot off the sea and traced it with her finger. How about giving me a couple of afternoons every week after school? A couple of mornings for part of the summer. We'll keep at it, work on it. We'll really try. She held out her hand. Give me a chance, Sam. I love to teach, and I'll teach you to love to read. She had such a nice smile, her teeth a little crooked, her dark, soft eyes. All right, he could do that. He swept his hand around the room. And sometime soon, I'll make shelves for this room. He'd missed the bus again, but that was all right, too. It was warm out, almost summer, so he jogged part of the way. Mac was outside waiting for him. They walked out back to stand in the doorway of the shed. Piles of sweet-smelling wooden planks stretched from one end to the other, and boxes and screws and nails were stacked against the wall. Mac had begun the cradle that would hold the growing hull of the boat. They breathed in the sweetness of the wood, half listening to the music that was coming from Anima's restaurant. Sam flexed his fingers. He couldn't wait to begin. But Onji poked his head in the window. Plenty of time for that. First, how about some muffins, you guys, and a glass of milk? Put some meat on those bones. We're built that way in our family, Mac said. Thin, but tough. Right, Sam said. They opened the back door of the deli. Just a second, Sam said. He went into Onji's office to get the internet and smothered out the paper with Caroline's address. He wanted to be sure she'd get the first message as soon as she reached home. One thing, one word, yes. And that is the end of our book. So there's one more thing though. We have a dream. Before I read you the dream, I want us to think about that last sentence. He wanted to be sure she'd get the first message as soon as she reached home. One thing, one word, yes. So why is it so important that she get that word yes from him? What's he saying yes to? Was there a question that Caroline was asking? I want us to really think about this, why he is saying yes. I'm going to go back a few pages because I think the answer is here. So I'm going to go back. I know you don't have the book, so you have to listen up, okay? So I'm going to go back to when Sam is talking to Caroline and she's about to leave. This is Caroline, who's they're talking about. She put a crumbled piece of paper in my hand. My email address. She leaned forward, purple hat, a dozen bracelets, a constellation of freckles, and kissed his cheek before she went to the front of the van. Think about it. Write to me. I'll figure it out. Say yes. I want you to open your notebook and jot down why he has to write the word yes. What is he saying yes to? Take a second to jot that down. You can pause the video and then make sure you unpause to hear this last dream. All right? The last dream is called So 11. It could be anything. A street, a house number, a pair of chimneys that didn't frighten him anymore. His 11th birthday, the year he met his best friend. It might even be the double mass on the boat he'd sail every summer on the St. Lawrence, with all of them, Mac, Onji, Anima, and Caroline. It was the year he began to read. The end.